Pollution is the introduction into environment of a substance which has harmful effects. This occurs as a result of indiscriminate discharge of waste into the environment. The emergence of globalization, technological advancements, and industrialization has significantly increased the quantity of waste generation. Pollution is an integral part of development, and both are inseparable but can be managed for healthy living on this planet. This is part of the 226th University of Ilorin Inaugural Lecture titled "Pollution: A Cause or a Necessity? The Choice is Yours", delivered by Professor Nasiru Abdus-Salam, Director of Central Research Laboratory, University of Ilorin, who also doubled as the Chief Imam, University of Ilorin Muslim Community on Thursday, 2nd of February 2023 at the University of Ilorin Main Auditorium. In attendance were the University of Ilorin Vice-Chancellor, Professor Wahab Olasupo Egbewole, University Registrar, Dr. Mrs. Fola Olowoleni, Dean of various faculties, professors, lecturers, royal fathers, relatives, friends, and students within and outside the university. Other dignitaries that graced the occasion were the JAMB Registrar, Professor Isiaq Olariwaju Oloyede, the Vice-Chancellor, Al-Hikma University, Professor Noah Yusuf, the Vice-Chancellor, Amman Batigi University, Professor Mahfouz Adedimeji, Hala of Ilala, Oba Abdulfatai Talabi Oladega Arilese II, and his entourage, among others. Pollution, a curse or a necessity? Let us find out from the clip of the inaugural lecture.
Professor Abdus-Salam has successfully supervised several undergraduate students, projects, master's dissertation, and PhD theses. He is a member of many learned and professional bodies such as Science Teacher Association of Nigeria, Institute of Chartered Chemists of Nigeria, Material Science Society of Nigeria, and Fellow Chemical Society of Nigeria. He has discharged several administrative responsibilities at the department, faculty, and university, as well as outside the university, which include academic level advisor between 1998 and 2005, departmental postgraduate seminar coordinator between 2003 and 2005, Faculty of Science representative on admissions committee between 2011 and 2013, head of chemistry department, University of London between 2014 and 2016, Dean, Faculty of Science, Federal University of Kashari, Gombe State, between 2016 and 2017, where he was on sabbatical leave, and on his return to the University of Ilorin, he was appointed Director, General Studies Division in 2018. His current appointment as Director, Central Research Laboratory was in 2021. Professor Nasiru Abdus-Salam has 72 publications in reputable local, national, and international journals, edited conference proceedings and chapters in books, as an accomplished researcher and general secretary for administration blog, and for procurement of some laboratory equipments for Oyelagbawo Grammar School in Lala, in the local government, as well as a 10 million naira grant from Kwara State Community and Social Development Agency, the World Bank and State Project for Water Reticulation Network and Rehabilitation of Health Center for Ilala Community. He has served as the external examiner to various universities in Nigeria.
Refuge in Allah against Shaitan the occult. And I start this presentation in the name of Allah, the Very, the Merciful. Rabbi Shrah li Sadri, wa Yassir li Amri, wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. My father, late Alhaji Salami Afolabi, wanted a replica of Dr. Y.K. Juma in me and thought the best way to achieve his goal for me was to focus on Arabic education. Consequently, with the honest advice from Dr. Juma that having acquired more than the fundamental of Arabic education, I should begin to complement it with Western education, particularly because acquiring Western education has a time and age range within which it can be acquired. My sojourn into Western education. I began my Western education in 1976 from Course 2 after mid-term break of the second term without primary education. Learning how to use and speak English language was initially tough and rough, but within the first year, Allah brought out the potential in me. Initially, I employed the service of a friend as an interpreter to explain most subjects to me, after which I committed to memory everything I read in notes and notes before test and examination. The practice of Lacram Lafort was fully employed. And it really paid off for me. In 1980, I won the highest number of prizes at the graduation in mock examination results. Although my ambition was to be a medical doctor, I did not gain admission, but accepted Allah's decision as being the best for me. My journey to the promised land began on completion of my HSC A level in 1982, when I gained admission into chemistry program at the University of Ilorin in 1983. After staying back for a year to work to support my parents in funding my education, I obtained BSc Chemistry in 1986, MSc Chemistry in 1991, PhD in 2005, all from the same institution. So, I am an undiluted chemist par excellence and an alumnus of the Inaugural University. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my parents wanted me to become a spiritual personality, while my mentor wanted me to acquire Western education alongside Islamic education to make me a complete, unique person. Alhamdulillah. Almighty Allah has accepted and actualized both my father's and mentor's desires. With all sense of humility, it is on record today that I am the current chief imam, the spiritual leader of the University of Ilorin Muslim community, and a professor of chemistry, which is the zenith of academic profession. I am also the first PhD holder, the first professor, and the first to deliver inaugural lecture from Ilala. This is not my making. All praises and adoration belong to Allah, my creator, cherisher and sustainer, who made it possible for me to attain both spiritual and academic heights. Rabbi Ayyi Alahi, Rabbi Kuma Tukazeban. Which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? None. Analytical chemistry can be described as a branch of chemistry that is involved in identifying, separating, and quantifying chemical compounds by using methods or techniques that are sensitive to detection, identification, characterization, and quantification of chemical components of matter. Analytical chemistry is central to many branches of science and applied science-related discipline. This central position is depicted by this figure 1 that you are seeing. But for the purpose of my presentation, I'll be using analytical chemistry to solve the problem of environmental chemistry. Environmental chemistry. Environmental chemistry is the branch of chemistry that deals with the chemical processes that occur in nature, air, terrestrial, and living environments, and the effects of human activities on them. It includes niche areas such as astrochemistry, atmospheric chemistry, environmental modeling, geochemistry, water chemistry, and pollution remediation. Environmental pollution, however, is the undesirable transformation of environment as a result of direct or indirect activities of man through changes in the energy pattern, level of radiation, physicochemical compositions, and species richness. It is a global issue affecting developed and developing nations and is threatening the survival of humans, animals, and vegetation. The emergence of globalization, occasioned by the rapid increase in industrialization and technological advancement, with the consequences of the discharge of toxic solid, liquid, and gaseous substances into the environment at a rate higher than it could be converted to harmless substances by nature, is the major cause of environmental pollution. Pollution is an integral part of development, and both are inseparable but can be managed for healthy living on this planet. Industrialization and technological advancement process some components of the environment into new products of better benefits. In the process, undesirable or poorly processed products are generated as pollutants in the environment because there is no 100% efficiency of any system. Waste are generated through natural and man-made sources in the environment. However, nature has a mechanism by which it removes the pollutants that are bad components. Basic types of pollution include water pollution, air pollution, and soil pollution. There are other minor classification of pollution. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, about 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, and only 25% of this total universal water volume is fresh water, representing the useful volume to man, meaning that of all the total volume of water, is only 22.5% of it is available to be used by man for his day-to-day activities. Around 70% of industrial waste is dumped into this little volume of water, while 80% of water pollution is caused due to indiscriminate discharge of domestic and industrial waste. Consequently, more than 6 billion pounds of garbage, mainly plastic, end up in oceans every year. You just need to wait and see when it rains and go to the street and see how the street is messed up. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, although food is a necessity, it is better imagined than experience what the health situation of man would have been if the byproducts of metabolism of food, which are essentially feces and urine, are not efficiently removed from the body. How you be carrying it, how can you live? Likewise, the obnoxious gases such as carbon monoxide, a silent killer, nitrogen and carbon dioxide, either generated by cells or inhaled, are not eliminated from cells and tissues. However, the sources of these byproducts and toxic gases cannot be avoided because we have to eat. Because of the great benefits derivable from them and the efficient removal mechanism put in place by Allah to deal with these, the byproducts has made it entirely a process, a necessity rather than a cause. The handling of pollution, which can make it a cause or a necessity, inform the choice. The title of this inaugural lecture: Pollution, a cause or a necessity. The choice is yours. I have chosen this title to disabuse the minds of many who consider pollution or a pollutant or unavoidable necessity. The handling of the pollution determines where to place the answer. Table 1. Representation of some inorganic contaminants in water and their effects on human beings as reported by various researchers. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, what follows are my research contributions to the field of analytical and environmental chemistry. Let me quickly add that the reports I shall render here are outcomes of the research endeavor of my research team, consisting of my BSc, MSc, and PhD research students on one part, and with the research collaborators from within and outside the University of Ilorin. Water research. A recent UNICEF report revealed that 2.2 billion people lack access to safe drinking water. More than half of the global population do not have access to safe sanitation, and 673 million people practice open defecation. UNICEF 2019. Nearly 1/3 of Nigerian children do not have enough water to meet their daily needs, and one in five children globally also do not have adequate water to meet their everyday needs. Globally, at least 2 billion people use a drinking water source contaminated with feces. UNICEF 2021. Onion River. This is the longest river in Kwara State, traversing 6 local government areas. Agricultural activities, small-scale industries, institutions, and some local dams are sited along the course of this river. Rural settlements along the river course depend on it for domestic and other uses. Thus, to study the quality of water in this river, water and sediment samples were collected from 7 different locations along the course of the river between Ofa local government area and Oduawan in the Moru local government area. The samples were treated using standard analytical procedures and tools, Adekola et al. 2003. Although the concentrations of the metals in the river water and sediments were within the WHO maximum permissible limits for potable water, USEPA, and Canadian regulatory limits for irrigation purposes, regular river monitoring was recommended after the analysis of all the results. Ilaje River, Ondo State. The water quality within 5 different communities of Ilaje local government area of Ondo State of Nigeria, sharing the same river, was examined for some physical-chemical parameters and heavy metals burden. The water quality parameters examined and compared with WHO guidelines on drinkable water in order to express the degree of natural and man-made input into the pollution body. The water bodies from the various communities examined were found generally to be unsafe for domestic and agricultural activities, which are the mainstay of the economy of the inhabitants. It was recommended that proper education, monitoring, and cleanup procedures in case of earth spillage be carried out promptly at these 5 different communities of Ilorin local government area, Ondo State, Abdus-Salam Eto 2010. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, my research team investigated the impact of dry season farming using polluted water for irrigation. The result revealed that health risk was high, as vegetables were found to accumulate toxic metals in their leaves, which would magnify in higher species of food web, the Smoeto 2003. We also carried out assessment of impact of petroleum depot effluent discharged into a nearby river quality, which impacted negatively on the water quality, and both human and aquatic organisms are at risk. Abdus-Salam 2017. Lagos Lagoon. There is growing evidence that some endocrine substances are linked to human health issues, such as breast cancer, infertility. Poor water samples were collected for 2 years between 2016 and 2018, covering both the dry and wet seasons. Appropriate analytical techniques were applied to analyze the sediments and water samples. Higher OTC values were obtained for the degradation indices, implying that apart from historic source of tributyltin and triphenyltin, which were predominantly from the use of antifouling paint, there were non-historical terrestrial pollutants that contained organotin compounds that were from sewage, sludge, and wastewater treatment. The study showed that the degradation of these organotin compounds into their metabolites was governed by the influence of specific microorganisms. Therefore, regular monitoring of harbor was recommended for the public safety. Kazim Eto 2020. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, our other published research on water and sediment, which were undertaken to understand the fate of toxic metals in the environment, include sequential extraction of trace metals and particle site distribution studies of Kainji Lake sediment, Nigeria, Adekola Eto 2010, assessment of pollution status of Asa River and Okun River in Ilorin metropolis, Usman Eto 2010, source identification of iron and manganese pollution of the University of Ilorin Dam, Adekola Eto 2015, assessment of the impact of industrial discharge on quality of water around Lavaj Cement Wapco, Iweko, Nigeria, Abdus-Salam and Nadeoye 2019. The impact of water distribution system on eventual quality, a case study of University of Ilorin water system, Adekola Eto 2013. Quality of some dams in Kwara State and Osho State. Potable water is becoming progressively scarce due to man-made pollution, and it has necessitated monitoring of the water quality of rivers and dams as a subject of ongoing concern and research. To this end, we conducted a study to assess the quality of water collected from Agba Dam in the Ilorin local government area, Ibaja Dam in the Federal local government area, Oloru Dam in Moro LGA, and Omara Dam in the Rekono LGA, Kwara State, using standard procedures. The results show that cadmium and iron concentrations were much higher than WHO guidelines for drinking water. This could be a result of man-made input. Furthermore, the concentrations of manganese, zinc, and cadmium were high in the dam sediment, which could have been easily washed into water body through leaching, thereby causing a detrimental effect on the consumer. Abdus-Salam Eto 2016. The Owala Dam water and sediment qualities were determined by using appropriate analytical techniques. The average value of most physicochemical parameters were within WHO and United States Environmental Protection Agency guidelines for drinking water. Toxic trace elements include cadmium and lead. Toxic trace elements, including cadmium and lead, occurred in very minor to insignificant concentrations with index of geoaccumulation values, classifying the sediment as unpolluted. Abdus-Salam Eto 2013. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, after the commissioning of University of Ilorin Dam and before it became operational, its water developed an unpleasant coloration. The University Authority contacted Prof. Agricola, the unit head of analytical and environmental chemistry, to determine the cause of unusual color. I worked with him, and an interim report was submitted. This report necessitated the formation of a multidisciplinary research group led by Prof. Agricola to determine the remote causes of manganese that were not noticed until after the commissioning of the dam. I was one of the 6-man technical members of the research group that was funded through the University of Ilorin Senate Research Grant. In the 50-page study report submitted, we established the high content of manganese and iron in the geological basement of the Ilorin Dam. The report concluded that the source of manganese was natural, not sabotage effect by anyone, and was from geological basement of the river and the soil of the river banks. Adekola et al. 2008. In addition, an iron exchange component was recommended to be added to the water treatment unit of the unit to remove dissolved manganese in water. The recommendation was implemented and the problem was permanently resolved. Dump sites and soil pollution. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the following are my contributions to the understanding of the quality of polluted soil through unguided or planned but unscientific creations of dump sites. Dump sites are commonly located within the vicinity of living communities and wetlands. The dump sites are often not lined and their basements are not usually prepared for selective absorption of toxic substances. Therefore, they are prone to release pollutants to nearby water and air through leaches and dump site gases respectively. Lokoja dump sites. Soil samples from 6 dump sites located indiscriminately within Lokoja Kogi State were collected with the aid of a soil auger. The speciation pattern of heavy metal, zinc, manganese, cadmium, lead, and iron from dump site was investigated using TCR 5-step sequential extraction procedure. The possible impact of the dump site on the surrounding water bodies was studied on the leaches, which were collected within 20-meter reach of the dump site. The research concluded that the dump site posed a potential pollution danger to the nearby groundwater due to the high mobility of the heavy metals. The high percent bioavailability was an indication of poor retention in the residual geochemical form, partly due to saturation and or old age of the dump site. Abdus-Salam et al. 2011. Ilorin dump sites. Speciation and distribution of heavy metals in soil control the degree to which metals and their compounds are mobile, extractable, and available to plants. Casual farmers plant vegetables on dump sites, particularly on abandoned dump sites, to take advantage of perceived fertility without consideration for the pollution load of that soil. 8 strategically located dump sites in the Ilorin metropolis were chosen for the study of dump site soil characteristics. It was observed that groundwater was vulnerable to contamination as no treated basement to absorb toxic metals was provided for in the site. About 70% of toxic metals were found in the mobile fraction. We concluded that the dump site in Ilorin posed negative consequences on the soil and the groundwater environment. Abdus-Salam 2009. In follow-up research conducted by our research group about 8 years later on the dump site in Ilorin metropolis and on the University of Ilorin dump site, we observed similar trend of metal bioavailability in the dump site. Shaibu et al. 2015. Other investigated and published reports of our careful studies on pollution emanating from poor management of dump sites and soils include evaluation of the toxic metal concentrations in leaves and stems of some crops and vegetables planted on the abandoned Asadam Road dump site. The result of analytical evaluation revealed bioaccumulated toxic metals in the vegetables and crops and rendering them unsuitable for consumption, but they find way into our market and we consume. Probably that was more of the reasons why there are various diseases and ailments that are difficult to resolve. Biological monitoring of chromium, copper, iron, manganese, and zinc in Ibadan province, Nigeria was also studied. Giwa et al. 2007. Some heavy metals in Ibadan and and rural topsoils of Ibadan, Nigeria, Iwa et al., 2009. Of rainwater in the atmospheric environment of Ilorin was evaluated as an indicator of pollution. Rainwater samples were collected on every rainy day at 11 different locations between March and October 2008. The rainwater quality was evaluated by using appropriate analytical techniques. We concluded that both natural and man-made inputs into the atmosphere influence the changes in the chemical composition of wet precipitation. Abdus-Salam et al. 2014. In another study of urban air pollution, the needle leaf samples of Scott pine, a bioindicator plant, were collected from 19 trees of uniform growth. The results showed that there was no significant difference between the concentrations of sulfur in the two cities at a 95% probability level. The levels of zinc in the two cities were also lower than 100 ppm, which is the established concentration for unpolluted sites. Cardinal concentration in all samples was generally below detection level of 0.01 ppm. We concluded that both the cardinal and zinc appear not to pose any threat to the urban environment of these cities. Adekola et al. 2002. Remediation studies. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, pollution, a cause or a necessity? The choice is yours. Presupposes that pollution is problematic, but if one makes it an untouchable monster, then it will in turn be a cause. But if it is considered a necessity that is associated with the benefits of industrialization and globalization, then a remediation strategy must be put in place to checkmate the pollution components. The later consideration is my approach to pollution issues. The presentation so far was on my concerted research efforts and that of my research team for over 2 decades on identifying the pollution problems and quantifying them using instrumentation of analytical chemistry. The second aspect of my research is on environmental pollution remediation, which utilize the combination of synthetic and analytical chemistry to solve environmental problems. Natural goethite. Oshogbo goethite. An investigation was carried out on the potential of locally sourced goethite and adsorbent for remediation of toxic substances like cadmium from aqueous solution. Using the batch equilibration technique, identified goethite sample was obtained from Geological Survey Department of Federal Ministry of Solid Mineral, Oshogbo, Nigeria. Combinations of analytical tools were used to understand the behavior of goethite adsorbent. From the result obtained, it was concluded that the natural goethite structure did not collapse under the experimental conditions because there was no release of iron, a major component of the goethite, in the analyzed solution after cadmium adsorption. This is a good characteristic for an eventual industrial application of goethite as an adsorbent. Salami and Adekola, 2002. Cardinal goethite. We also studied other experimental conditions that would enhance absorption capacity of natural goethite. Absorption efficiency was greatly governed by pH, with nearly 100% absorption of lead occurring at initial pH of 5. Generally, lead, a toxic metal, was absorbed more strongly with increasing pH from 3 to 5 than cadmium, and thus pose a less environmental threat. The synthetic goethite absorbed a little more metal, iron, than natural goethite. The higher performance was attributed to the higher purity of synthetic goethite than natural goethite per unit mass of sample rather than the greater chemical reactivity of the synthetic goethite. Abdus-Salam and Adekola, 2005. We concluded that natural goethite can compete favorably with synthetic goethite for the decontamination of lead and zinc from polluted effluents. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the structural stability of goethite as an adsorbent was also investigated using a goethite obtained from Oshogbo and Kaduna dissolution pattern in HCl and HNO3, which mimic industrial effluent conditions. The rate of dissolution was found to be slightly faster in HCl than HNO3 under the same experimental conditions. We concluded that in case these acids are needed for regeneration experiments, the concentrations used are mild enough and will produce minimal loss of goethite samples based on percentage of iron 3 dissolved per gram goethite. Abdus-Salam and Adekola, 2006. Adsorbent from agricultural waste. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, our curiosity in cleaning the environment from a large volume of annually generated agricultural garbage directed my research focus on how to convert the readily available waste into useful biomass adsorbent. Moreover, the cost of available imported adsorbent is usually expensive and it is a contributing factor to the evasion of effluent treatment by many industries. And adsorbent from readily available agricultural waste with comparative efficiency with imported activated carbon will conserve our foreign reserve, boost our economy, and clean our environment of pollutants. We realize from this effort that nothing is a waste, and whatever you throw away because it has no value to you is a valuable raw material for a new product, if only you know. Activated carbon from date palm seed, DPA. Activated carbon was prepared from the date palm seed using a one-step process of carbonization and activation with 56.54% efficiency. The adsorbent was characterized using appropriate analytical techniques. We therefore concluded that DPA can be considered an alternative biomass for the removal of a single dye solution of alizarin and fluorescein, since it was found to be effective, low cost, abundant, and can be sourced locally. Abdus-Salam and Buhari 2016. Activated carbon from mango seed, MGA. MGA was prepared using a one-step procedure with 62.27% yield and was characterized using standard analytical procedures. The absorption of alizarin and fluorescein dyes were rapid at the first 15 minutes of agitation with 86.90% and 85.75% removal respectively. The evaluated thermodynamic quantities revealed negative values of delta G, positive delta H, and delta S, which indicated that the absorption of these dyes was spontaneous, endothermic, and increasingly random at the aqueous MGA interface during absorption. Therefore, we concluded that MGA can be considered an alternative biomass for the removal of single dye solution of alizarin and fluorescein. Abdus-Salam and Buhari 2014. Composite formation between inorganic and biomass adsorbents. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, our success in the preparation of adsorbent from waste agricultural materials challenge us on the need to improve on their adsorptive characteristics to be competitive with high-performing inorganic adsorbents. This directed my research focus again to how we could re-engineer the structure of the low-cost biomass adsorbents through composite formation between our biomass and good-performing inorganic adsorbents. The composites are of better structural properties than the precursors, that is, the biomass and inorganic adsorbents. This usually confers higher absorption efficiency on the composites than the precursors under the same experimental conditions. Magnetite and baobab composite. Magnetite was synthesized, baobab fruit adsorbent was prepared, and composite between the two adsorbents was prepared in situ. The three adsorbents were characterized and separately applied for the removal of zinc from synthetic wastewater. On the basis of results obtained from the absorption isotope, kinetics, and thermodynamic parameters evaluation, we concluded that the baobab magnetite composite had greater efficiency than the precursor. The three adsorbents were found to have high efficiency for reuse at low concentration of HCl leachant, which suggested a good regenerative potential for the adsorbent usage. Figure 4, we will observe that the MB is the composite. It absorbs the toxic waste than the precursors as shown on the board. The air oxidation method of precursors. Date palm seed was prepared as adsorbent, while the composite of the two was prepared in situ. The three adsorbents were characterized using analytical techniques. We concluded that on the basis of the characterization result obtained, the synthesized goldite and the prepared composite would find applications in ion exchange, chromatographic methods, and absorption processes. Abdus-Salam and Ilorin 2017. Remediation of dye pollution. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the menace of dye pollution is worrisome. because a little quantity of it in water can spread fast and wide and can create aesthetic problems in addition to its carcinogenic effects. The assumption of rhodamine B on zinc oxide nanoparticle was investigated by my research team at various solution pH, adsorbate concentration, adsorbent mass, temperature, and contact time. The optimal absorption was established at pH of 6 in 150 minutes, while the maximum absorption capacity of rhodamine B or zinc oxide nanoparticle was 24.41 mg per gram at pH of 4 in 180 minutes, using 50 mg per liter rhodamine B at temperature of 313 K. The results show that rhodamine B absorption was spontaneous, endothermic, and random at the zinc oxide nanoparticle aqueous interface. Therefore, it was concluded that the nanoscale zinc oxide nanoparticle absorbent is efficient for the removal of rhodamine B from wastewater. Our results were compared with similar research efforts in literature, table 2, Godwin et al. 2022. It will be observed that the first absorbent, zinc oxide nanoparticle, had highest removal rate for the absorbent if compared with other research results. Nanotechnology. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, over the years, metal oxide design and fabrication at nanoscale range has received great attention with the advent of nanotechnology. The field of nanotechnology is a fast-growing and promising area that offers improved, innovative, and cost-effective solutions to solving environmental problems in terms of the design of nanomaterials. My research group ventured into the synthesis of pure nanosized adsorbents for the decontamination of polluted wastewater. In the beginning, the nanosized range was not easily attainable, as our initial synthetic products were particle sizes outside the nano range, that is greater than 100 nanometers. With strong determination and careful manipulation of variable parameters, we have made tremendous progress. Some of our successes are reported below. Zinc oxide nanoparticle. The zinc oxide nanoparticles were synthesized and characterized using multiple analytical methods. Pure zinc oxide nanoparticles were synthesized since there were no other characteristics observed other than that of zinc oxide. The synthesized zinc oxide nanoparticle had an average particle size of 52.76 nanometer, which is within the narrow range. Therefore, zinc oxide nanoparticles are contain mainly mesopause, Godwin et al. 2022. Coated nanoparticles. Coated nanoparticles were synthesized by the hydrothermal assisted method and characterized using multiple analytical methods. The dynamic glass capturing study gave average nanoparticle sizes of 58.24 nanometer. Again, this is another breakthrough in synthesis of nanoparticles. The mechanism of batch absorption of lead-2 and indigo coming onto the coated nanoparticle was studied at various conditions of solution pH, adsorbate concentration, adsorbent dose, temperature, time agitation, and time of agitation. The change in Gibbs free energy of them was negative, which reveals spontaneous absorption process, while positive values of delta H and delta S for lead and indigo carmine respectively show an endothermic and randomness of absorption process. Godwin et al. 2022. Hematite. In another research work, we designed an easy and simple hydrothermal approach for synthesizing pure rod-like hematite in an alkaline medium using a hydrated source of iron without any hard template or surfactants. Rod-like hematite obtained by the hydrothermal method was characterized using different analytical methods. The SRB analysis showed that the single crystalline sample index as a pure rhombohedra hematite material was formed, while the DLS and zeta potential analysis indicated an average particle diameter and particle size of 1300.9 nanometer and 31.20 millivolts with less aggregation respectively. Therefore, this method may be applied to synthesize other forms of iron minerals or other inorganic materials at an industrial scale level, especially when rod-like materials are needed. Abdus-Salam et al. 2020. The schematic diagram is the laboratory setup for the the hydrothermal synthesis of hematite that was developed. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, zinc oxide nanoparticle absorbent was synthesized through a carefully designed procedure involving progressions of the chemical reactions and final calcination of whole precipitated hydroxide of zinc at 500 degrees C, figure 7. This reaction scheme involves 5 stages of reactions depicted by the following equations. The nitrate and urea multi-analytical tools were utilized for the determination of the composition, morphology, chemical analysis, crystallinity, and thermal stability of zinc oxide nanoparticles. While FTR method was used, crystal size of the synthesized zinc oxide nanoparticles and obtained 35.69 nanometer. However, the DLS result of zinc oxide nanoparticles for particle sizing revealed that the synthesized material had an average particle size of 52.76. The good thing about it, whether we go by the dB-Schiller equation or the DLS preparation, we obtain nano-sized particle. The absorption of lead-2 and red S onto zinc oxide nanoparticle obtained was investigated. A comparison of the absorption of lead-2 and alizarin red S on the synthesized nanoadsorbent with other adsorbent by other researchers shown in table 3 revealed that our own zinc oxide nanoparticle synthesized in this work had higher absorption capacity and performance for lead ions and alizarin red than the values obtained by other researchers. Godwin et al. 2022. Conclusion and recommendations. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in the course of this presentation, I have carefully discussed my research efforts spanning over 2 decades in the area of water and land pollution management. My research team and I examined the pollution index of dams, rivers, boreholes, wells, sediment, and soil using various analytical tools. I have presented my contribution to process development with the sole aim of establishing ways of determining the water regime, ways of decontaminating the water regime. Our latest effort in process development was in the emerging area of nanotechnology, in which we have successfully synthesized novel nanoscale adsorbents and applied them with improved results. The main conclusion of my discussion so far is that global pollution problems emanate from poor management of man-made activities. There is a huge investment of human and capital resources into what man gets out of the environment without commensurate attention to the management of the harmful byproducts of those processes. Effective and coordinated approaches can resolve the threat of global pollution. Therefore, it is our collective responsibility to make pollution either a mere necessity or a monster of problems, which summarizes and encapsulates the title of this inaugural lecture: Pollution, a cause or a necessity. The choice is yours. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, Nigeria, with a population of about 200 million people, with moderately growing industrial sector, poorly planned urban settlements, and poorly enforced environmental regulations, is bound to face pollution threats from those sectors. Based on the aforementioned, I therefore make the following recommendations to avert the negative consequences of pollution. Analytical chemistry. 1. Analytical chemistry is central to pure science and science-related discipline research. It requires state-of-art equipment to obtain full information about the final details of research products. I therefore call on the government to increase research funding and provide state-of-art equipment to support research. 2. Funding breakthrough scientific research requires good capital involvement, and the government budget alone is grossly inadequate to meet up with the expectations. I strongly recommend enhanced legislation on participatory funding for science and science-related discipline by industry and government parastatals with robust internally generated revenue, such as Nigerian Communications Commission, National Space Research and Development Agency, National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, to mention but a few. 3. As a matter of urgency, the University Senate research grant should not only be reintroduced and maintained, but the value payable to researchers should increase and be more readily accessible to researchers, particularly the young researchers. 4. The current trend in which research disciplines separately owned same equipment locked up in their various laboratories and stores should be discouraged. Central research laboratories in universities and research centers should be strengthened with these pieces of equipment to serve the larger community. 5. Clean and accessible potable water is one of the critical areas of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and Nigeria can only achieve this through its Ministry of Water Resources. The government should therefore strengthen this ministry to stabilize and carry out its statutory functions. 6. Freshwater resources are critical to a healthy environment and water usability. Presently, these resources are polluted at varying degrees, and necessary water standards and regulations must be enforced to ensure potable water quality and availability. Government should challenge relevant agencies such as National Water Research Institute and the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency to constantly monitor industrial effluent discharges and enforce necessary regulations. 7. Lagos Lagoon is contaminated with organotin compounds and its derivative species, which come from their usage as anti-fouling agents for sheep, despite the fact that they are known endocrine disruptors. There must be an effective ban on the use of organotin compounds as anti-fouling agents. 8. Refuse disposal dump sites in most urban areas are indiscriminately sited and unscientifically prepared. The geological soil formation, location of water resources, and ability of the dump site basement to selectively retain toxic pollutants from percolation into fresh water are necessary factors for consideration for dump site locations. For this reason, the government should consider a basement treatment for dump sites before location and usage. I appreciate all the right mentorship to my teachers from chemistry and industrial chemistry department, Professor Ibo Odebumi, A.A. Obaleye, G.A. Olatunji, S.A. Adedinale, A.A. Owoyadele, S.A. Biyemi, and S.A. Lawali. I remain sincerely grateful for the impactful knowledge imparted to me. I sincerely appreciate my senior and other colleagues from the Department of Chemistry and Industrial Chemistry who made the journey interesting to me. You provided me with the necessary motivation to grow on the job. They include professors Yuki Eke, Yosumo, Tella, Usman, Baba, Okwani, Okoye, Adewale, Ami, Bara, Lawal, Okawanbe, Zubair, Adegoke, Okoro, Okaba, Akolani,
Benga Ruben, reporting for the Optimistic TV.